All right, in this video, I'm going to talk about how my wife and our three kids left Florida 9 months ago. And since then, we've stayed in 8 homes in 5 different cities in Mexico, Quebec, and British Columbia. And now we're thinking about going to either Italy or to Guatemala. And so in this video, I'm going to tell you about the pros, the cons, and lessons learned, or things that we do differently knowing now, 9 months later, what we've learned, world schooling and kind of, being digital nomads with our three kids. So quick context intro, I've worked in tech sales and marketing for since 2014. And, since I got into that after I got out of the army. And then since then, I've built and sold a consumer goods startup. I work for companies basically selling hardware, services, and software, a few different companies. And in 2023, last year, I started my own consulting business, working with startups to grow. So that's how I pay the bills while we're traveling, is remote consulting income. And my wife and I have always loved traveling. And one day we just kind of realized that we didn't really have anything keeping us from going abroad. So we figured we would give it a shot. And it works because my wife has been homeschooling our kids for a few years now. And I work full time, so she's like the main teacher. I help with a couple little subjects here and there, but she's really the main one driving it. And yeah, so that's basically the context. In terms of pros, the main things that we've really liked are obviously the experiences. We've done some really cool things in every place that we've gone, right? Just really cool, scuba diving and different treks and hiking adventures and like local cultural experiences. All that has been really, really good. Meeting other travelers too. So a lot of the people that you meet that are also traveling tend to be have really interesting stories and backgrounds. And so we've made some friends like that, and we're still in touch with a lot of them. And it's funny, we've met some in Mexico that now we hang out with in Quebec, and we meet up with them whenever our paths cross, right? So it's really cool. The other thing is the education for the kids. So obviously world schooling, you get to experience different cultures, and we haven't been to a ton of different countries yet, so we're still kind of early. But the education they get is really interesting because you're homeschooling, you kind of control what they're learning, and so we're doing a bunch of stuff with reading eggs and synthesis and like paper curriculum as well. But they also get exposure to different cultures, and so they get to learn about what it's like to live in different areas. And so far we've lived in like very rural areas, like in the middle of nowhere, where I have to use like a Starlink setup to get my internet to do my work. And just dealing with like what that's like, and all the adventures that you can have out there. And then also being in the big city, we stayed for just over a month in Puerto Vallarta, so we had a whole month adventure there and got to learn about what it's like to live in a larger Mexican city. I know it's still small compared to others, but for us, going from the country in Mexico to a big city is a big difference. So it was a lot of fun too. We did a lot of cool things there. Other pro is quality of life. So when you're living in a lower cost living area, but you keep making the same income and the same currency in your home country, there's a ton of advantages, right? It's a little bit of an arbitrage where you can live a really good quality of life, great fresh local food, nice homes with nice views, nice areas. So that's been a definite pro and a lot of fun. And then also just like the appreciation that you develop for other cultures. So learning about Spanish or learning about Mexican culture, and just a lot of the things that we picked up there, and we learned a little bit of Spanish, so we're more conversational now, not really fluent, but we could get by with basic conversations in Spanish, which is fun. The kids as well have picked up some Spanish, so that's been a lot of fun. And also just the final pro I'd say is like the sense of unity. Like as we're traveling, we're like just experiencing all these things together, which I think has been a really cool part of the experience that we've all enjoyed. Now on the cons side, so there are definitely downsides, right? It's not all sunshine and rainbows. Homesickness, right? So I have that, my wife has it, our kids have it, where we miss our friends and family from. We lived in Florida for a couple of years, and before that we were living in a different part of Quebec than we are right now, and we miss like our friends and family, like the main, missing birthdays and missing Christmas together and things like that. We managed to mitigate some of that by going into a town that actually my wife's parents, my in-laws, visit every year. So they're snowbirds, and we decided for our first adventure we would go and live with them. That's that rural village in Mexico. So we at least had some people with us, and then we also mitigated that by having people visit us and inviting people to come spend time with us. We had a big enough place that we could have like a spare bedroom or two that people could come visit and benefit from. So that was really nice. Also, the less stability for the kids. So obviously by its nature, you're picking up and you're moving, you're changing locations on a regular basis. And so that just means that for the kids, it's a constant change. And so I have noticed a little bit of anxiety, and it's one of the things that has us thinking we should settle back down relatively soon. I don't think we'll be world schooling for many, many years, but we're thinking maybe another year tops is kind of what we're thinking because of that, because the kids have a hard time getting into a routine, and it just kind of impacts everything, their behavior, their stress, all that, and we don't like that, right? So we feel like we have to, it's there's a novelty aspect that's really fun about seeing all these different places, but after a while it just gets like tiring, and you feel like you don't want to change places so often. So that's one thing, and also less routine for us as the adults, right? So obviously figuring out childcare in new cities where you don't have people. So after our first city, we went to Puerto Vallarta, which was, we didn't really have anyone there except for my mom came down and visited with us for a bit. But if we didn't have her with us, we would have had the situation where we would have to figure out childcare and get back into our own routines so that my wife and I could go on dates and things like that. So that was a big thing as well. And also, like personally, I like to work out. And so, having to find a new gym set up everywhere and using bands when you're traveling is okay, but it's not the same as actually going to the gym and like going to that different context. So that wasn't ideal. And that's one thing that I found difficult. And also settling into work habits. So, working remotely, every new location, I have to like reset up my home office. So pick a room and have a desk set up, whether I buy a desk locally, off Marketplace or Walmart or something, and just have a desk for the period that we're there, right? If the place that we're renting doesn't have a spare desk laying around. So just, getting back in that routine of like, your day to day, like what time you start at and what your setup is like, and all your food and your drinks and all that, like, your brands change as you change locations and just stuff like that, little minor frictions that kind of add up to like this friction of going to a new place and getting settled in to keep being productive and working. So that's basically it. So it's, homesickness, less stability, and less routine for the kids and for us as well. Lessons learned and things that we do differently. Going back to, like 9 months ago, I would have focused on having like longer term homes at the start. So our first rental was just under 2 months, but then right afterwards we went to a bunch of different places. We should have planned that out a little bit better and had like one location for 2 to 3 months at a time to enable us to get that routine. I find it takes a couple of weeks to get settled in with the kids and with us, the adults. So I think that's one thing that I would have done differently. Also, I would have looked for homeschooling hubs sooner. So there's actually a pretty well-developed community of what are called Worldschooling hubs, where you can meet other families that are traveling and homeschooling. And so they oftentimes will have like, like shared activities. They'll have like, it's basically like a school. So you send your kids there from like 9 to 1 or 9 to 3 each day, Monday to Friday. And they go and they get to meet friends. They do all kinds of different activities, local experiences, things like that. So that gives the parents time to either, you can get involved. A lot of them will let the parents go and participate. Or like volunteer to help chaperone the kids, or if the parents are working, like one or both the parents are working, then they can just use that time during the daytime to work and catch up on things. So it's a really cool setup, and I think that we haven't done that yet. And looking back, I think it would have been a good move because it would have mitigated a lot of the like a lack of local friends and having to relearn like all the local experiences. Whereas if you go to a hub, you kind of have that like pre-built. You learn all of that really fast, and you get to meet a lot of people. So I would have probably done that instead. And then finally, packing lighter. So this is one that my wife brought up. We thought that we packed light, and then we realized after we got to our first location that we probably could have dropped, and we ended up dropping ultimately like 1.5 pieces of luggage that we just cleared out all the things and we didn't need to carry it all. So that was a really cool learning. And so now we're traveling a lot lighter. The only thing is we have to bring around the Starlink around, so that's a little bit bulky, but obviously we need that for work in case we go somewhere that doesn't have fast Wi-Fi. And so that's basically it. So I would have longer term homes, to have more stability. I think if you're younger, you don't have kids, I think it's easier to just like pick up and move every few weeks, but it's very disruptive for your own work patterns and with the kids. And then look for homeschooling hubs to get the community and the local experiences like faster and just get to meet other people in an easier way than like just having to cross them at random events locally, where it's like a congregation of like-minded people that are all kind of, having the shared experience of what they're going through. And then packing lighter ultimately would have been the right move. So fun video outside of what I normally talk about in terms of business and consulting and growth and all that. But if you like this, like, comment, subscribe, and give me some feedback so I know if I should make more videos like this. All right, thanks.